day, and welcome to the second episode of WEDCOnomics, a podcast television show that is focused exclusively on small businesses and entrepreneurs in the Eastern Lakes region of New Hampshire. And last episode we talked about how a small business can connect with their customers, and today we're going to talk specifically about building sustainable small businesses with business advising. And we hope you will find that interesting and entertaining, and I am so pleased to be able to introduce special guest Kyla Brustin from Small Business Development Center.
Good morning, Jack. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, absolutely, 100%. So let's talk about the Small Business Development Center, which would make sense, right? Because that's who you're with. So can you just, for our audience, and thank you all that watched or listened to episode 1, really appreciate it, and hope you'll spread the word as we go through our various shows. Let's talk. What is the Small Business Development Center?
Sure. I'm glad you asked. The Small Business Development Center is both a federally and state-funded nonprofit organization. On the federal level, we're funded by the SBA, and on the state level, we receive funds in the state budget, but we're also funded by about 17 different grants and supported by the University of New Hampshire. And the Small Business Development Center exists to help small business owners and would-be small business owners become more successful in their business, grow their business, sell their business, or decide to start a business.
Okay, so that's a very...
The 20,000-foot view.
That is a very high view, so we're going to drill down on that a little bit later. But that is a good synopsis of who and what the Small Business Development Center is. What sort of impact does the SBDC, which is Small Business Development Center, just as WEDCOnomics is short for Wentworth Economic Development Corporation, what does the SBDC, what sort of impact do you have on the small business sector?
The SBDC plays a huge role in helping small businesses grow, connect with financial resources, hire, market, as I said, sell. There are statistics actually that come out every year, and I think the statistic from this year is that in the state of New Hampshire, the SBDC, businesses who worked with SBDC grew their employee level by 14% more than your standard business, and we've got the impact report right there. We also connected our clients with more capital than businesses going it alone. And we generally made our businesses made more revenue than businesses going it alone.
Is that right? You have that?
Yeah.
Are you making that up?
I
want proof.
There is proof right here. If I can just find it.
Yeah. So,
here we go.
Yeah.
$44 million in new capital.
Right.
760 created jobs, and I actually do have a slideshow that I can always follow up with you on that showed that showed the difference between our clients and, as I said, people who were just trying to figure it out on their own.
And they make more.
Yeah, we do actually, and that makes sense to me because as someone who has owned 2 small businesses, when you're doing it all by yourself without anyone to bounce things off of or ask questions to, you really are sort of reinventing the wheel every single day about how to run your business. When you work with a Small Business Development Center, you're reaching a seasoned business advisor, someone who's been in the trenches, who also has a formal education in business, and who's connected to a lot of resources who can help you so that you're not reinventing the wheel. And so that's really our secret sauce, is the combination of those 3 things. Our advisors have a formal education in business experience, and business connections.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in 2022, SBDC advised almost 3,400 clients.
In the state of New Hampshire.
In the state of New Hampshire. We're not talking about the world here, even though this is a global podcast. We're just talking about New Hampshire. And I think that's of all the little stats here, I think that's the most impressive, is that you've connected with that number of people. That's great. If in fact it's true.
The numbers don't lie.
Okay.
It is true. Small Business Development Center advisors sometimes meet with clients 1 or 2 times, or sometimes meet with clients weekly for years. So that's one of the ways that we're able to connect with that many people in a year, is that we really try to make ourselves available based on client needs. There are times when I've met with somebody who just had an idea and said, well, hey, what do you think about this idea? And then we start trying to put the numbers to paper on this idea, and we decide whether this is someone's passion project or their business. And that's someone who doesn't have as much advising. And then, as I said, we've got other clients who we meet with on a weekly basis for years on end.
Yeah, so what specifically is Kyla Brustin's role in the SBDC?
So I am a North and Central Business Advisor. And what that means is that I divide my time in 2 ways. I meet with clients. That's what I do primarily. And again, my clients run the gambit from people who just have an idea and they're trying to figure out if they should launch this thing, or businesses that have been around for 1 year or 5 years or 20 years, or 20 years, or are getting ready to sell, rather. So that's the way that I spend the majority of my time. But when I am not doing that, I participate in continuing education opportunities, putting on continuing education opportunities for business. So in other words, we do a lot of classes, we do a lot of webinars. We also do a lot of education ourselves so that we stay up on all the things that we need to know to be good advisors.
So, what are your qualifications to be advising business, if I might ask?
Sure. So I, like most people, was an accidental business owner. I, believe it or not, started out getting a master's degree in diplomacy and international relations. And I was I was living in Newark, New Jersey, and I was a runner. And so I would go. This is a long story, but it gets somewhere. I would go running in the morning.
It's all right. We got 30 minutes. Go.
And I would have to stop at stoplights and breathe exhaust. And one day I thought to myself, I'm spending a ton of money. I don't want to live in a city, and I hate breathing exhaust. So I just need to put a stop to this right now. And so I moved to New Hampshire to ski for a winter. Skied, waited tables, had a grand old time, and then realized I wasn't going to leave New Hampshire anytime soon. So I looked around at opportunities and said, what's the best way to make money here? And I got into real estate. And after getting into real estate, I became a partner in the real estate firm that I own now. And a couple of years into that, started another side business, which was a vacation rental management company. So property management and vacation rentals. And I grew that business from the ground up to become the largest business in the area, and then I sold it to a national company at the end of 2020. And during the time of growing those two businesses, the real estate business is still around and actually has the largest market share in the area, so it grew quite a lot over the years.
It's okay to say the name of the real estate if you want.
It's Pinkham Real Estate in North Conway, New Hampshire. And between growing Pinkham Real Estate and starting the vacation rental business and growing that, there were a lot of times when, as I said, I was kind of operating in a vacuum, trying to figure out, well, okay, what's the best way to hire right now? How do I solve seasonal cash flow problems? What's the best way to market my business? And I stumbled along and figured it out, but I used to think, well, how much easier would this be if I had two things? One, education, formal education, and two, support, somebody who I could reach out to say, hey, you got an idea on this? So when I sold the business, the vacation rental business, I went back to school and got my MBA. And so I kind of completed the circle, and then I had this business experience, I had the educational experience, and then serendipity, the SBDC job came up that they were looking for an advisor in my area. And so I took it. And here we are. So long story short, my credentials are that I've been there, done that with small business in a couple of different industries, faced a lot of challenges, got a formal education, have received education from SBDC. And so I'm in a, I believe, good position to advise people who are going through what I have been through.
Very interesting. Serendipitous. So you describe what SBDC does, right? But I'm talking about small businesses. I'm talking about people getting started or wanting to grow the business. I'm not talking about people that can afford to do a lot of things, different things. So how on earth could they afford SBDC services? How can they afford it?
Well, everyone is in luck because SBDC is a nonprofit. We're able to offer our services at no charge. So thankfully, we are funded by the sources that I mentioned. And again, the backbone of the U.S. economy is small business. And fortunately,
and in the Eastern Lakes region as well.
I would say, in New Hampshire, if we want to even extend outward.
We should, because this is a global podcast.
This is a global podcast. So I think that the powers that be recognize that businesses need support to be successful. If we are going to have an economy based on small business, we need to provide support to small business, and that means we need to make resources available to them. So SBDC resources are available, again, at no charge. The only thing that a person needs to do is sign up on our website and agree to our confidentiality, which is another really important aspect of working with SBDC, is that our services are confidential. When you're starting a small business, a lot of the time your business and personal finances bleed together, and your business and personal life bleed together.
Yes, they do.
And so we are a safe place for you to go and say, I just cashed out my retirement and I put it all into this business. What do I do now? You can do it with no shame and no fear that we're going to judge you, because we're really there to help you. Our job is, again, to ensure our clients' success.
So what reasonably could a small business expect when they enter into a relationship with SBDC?
So we are there, again, to provide the support that our clients want. A great example of how an SBDC relationship might work is that someone has an idea for a business. They have zero idea where to start. And so they reach out to an advisor first to vet the idea. Say the idea has legs. Then to start looking at, okay, what is this going to cost financially? And so we can help them with an analysis of what's it take to get this business off the ground. Then say we get the business going. The next thing is going to be, well, how do I hire? And so every step along the way, SBDC is there to help that client to be successful in the growth that they need to achieve in order to become profitable.
So the end goal is defined by the small business choice of how far they want to go with SBDC.
It is. I mean, there are
So if it's just a business plan, that's the end goal.
We can do that.
But if it's the execution of the business plan, you can be there too for that.
Absolutely. And in fact, I would encourage that they stay with us for longer, because
But it's
again,
so expensive.
It's free.
Yeah, it's free.
It's free.
Free?
There's no reason not to. If you feel like you've entered an infomercial, you sort of have.
I've been called worse. All right, so enough about you. For crying out loud, Wentworth Economic Development Corporation is here. Our mission is really a three-legged stool, right? We're going to make sure small businesses get the advice they need, and that includes SBDC, but not exclusively. There's all kinds of different ways to do it, but we certainly do a lot with you guys.
We do.
And the second leg of the stool is to finance where we can, and perhaps finance folks that fall short of bank standards. we have a little more latitude than banks do because we're a nonprofit as well, and we can take a little more risk. And the third leg is the promotion of the overall small business sector. So what do you think our relationship is between SBDC and WEDCO?
Well, I was just going to say that one of the things that you just said will be particularly appealing to viewers and listeners who really badly want to start a business but feel that they may not be financially ready. So you mentioned that you can provide a lot of starting resources, not just advising, which we work on together or we can do apart depending on the client needs, but also that you can potentially provide financing to people who may not yet be bankable. And when we say bankable, meaning have a really solid credit score, have cash to put into the business, who have a solid history, a solid financial history. If we've got a client or you've got a client who doesn't have those things, you mentioned that WEDCO might be able to help. Do you have an example of a business, without naming names, where that scenario occurred and WEDCO was able to, not to put you on the spot?
First of all, I ask the questions. This is my gig. Jack Terrill, WEDCO, first and foremost.
Forgive me.
But sure, we have a long... we have a decent amount of clients. We want more. We want to get more money out in the community. And oftentimes that's done in conjunction with banks. Banks will only go so far, extend themselves so far on a particular loan just because they have, they have to answer to the board of directors of the banks and such. And we can come in and fill in that gap. Where banks don't want to go that far, we can finish that off. So there's a number of ways that we can be creative, and the end goal is, at least for me, when I start a relationship with a client or potential client, is how do we get to yes on financing? Because WEDCO has a loan review team. It's not like I'm sitting behind my desk handing out money. It's a presentation has to be made that will convince the loan review team, which is made up of board members and hopefully some non-board members at some point as well, that says, okay, let's do this. And you and I have discussed particular clients, and Kyla's coming from an SBDC point of view, and I'm coming from a WEDCO point of view, but our mission is the same. How do we get success for this idea?
That's right.
And so we do share information. It's all very confidential. But that's another way that we kind of work together. We have a mutual interest in seeing success for the client that's out there. Does that answer your last question? Ever?
Let me just cancel my next 5 questions, I guess.
No, you're welcome to ask me questions.
Yes, it answers the question, and it makes me think of a scenario where, just to further explain it for viewers and listeners, I might have a client who wants to buy a building, and then after buying that building needs to outfit that building with equipment. And so the client may go to a bank for example, an SBA loan to purchase that commercial real estate. But the SBA loan only extends so far. And then that client would go on to WEDCO in hopes of obtaining a loan for the equipment or the build out of that building afterward. So for people who are new to hearing about this, SBDC and WEDCO, or who had never heard of either before you watched this global podcast / show, that would be a common example of how we can work together, including banks. And again, as Jack said, sometimes not including banks, sometimes just WEDCO and SBDC doing something.
Right. All right. That was excellent. I think there's potential for you in the podcast world. Watch me closely, and you'll pick up stuff. I just want to. So you're out there. You're out there in the field. You're out there working with clients. So I wanted to, tap into you and ask what sort of observations you've seen in your time doing what you do. What are things that you could advise people to avoid, and things that you would like them to really focus on even before they meet with SBDC?
Sure.
Field observations, if you will.
Probably the biggest observation is that no one is comfortable with finances. Almost no one is comfortable with finances. People don't like to think about it. People don't like to talk about it. People don't like to manage their finances. But if the business doesn't have money and make money, then you don't have a business. So your idea is great, but if it doesn't make money or have the potential to make money, it may be a passion. And when it starts making money, if you don't manage that revenue carefully, then you will run into problems. So I would say the first and kind of biggest observation that I have from the field is that small business owners need to become comfortable with their finances, with understanding how basic accounting works. And these are things that we can help with, both SBDC and WEDCO.
Kind of why
it's kind of what we exist for.
Yeah.
Exactly. So money is the first one. The second one, I think, is that people are often, well, especially now and in New Hampshire, which is the northern part of the United States, we have a lot of businesses that operated in very traditional ways. So they had a cash register and they had a storefront, and things are changing so that having a digital presence, like you talked about with Moxdog, and having digital marketing has become really important. There are a number of business owners who have resisted and bucked that trend, but it's not going away. And so again, it's something to make sure that you're getting ahead of, so that you don't lose business to a competitor who is staying on it and getting ahead of you.
What about the importance of a business plan? Or even deeper, should a small business have a mission and a vision in mind?
Having a mission and a vision is critical, and really, now that you bring it up, and thank you for bringing it up, comes before even managing finances and your digital marketing. If you don't have a business plan, you could argue that you don't have a business. When you start, really need to know what is your mission, who are you serving, how are you serving them, and why you want to do this. All of those questions are really important to have answers to. And again, SBDC and WEDCO can help with business planning. We consider a business plan a living document. So you sometimes have a real solid idea of what you want to do. Then you test it out in the market and you find that things aren't playing out exactly as you imagined. So you revisit that business plan and you might pivot a little bit, but for that pivot, you should also have a business plan. It keeps you moving in a forward direction, and it keeps you focused on your goals.
So it's not something you write up and throw on a shelf and it gets dusty up there. A business plan is a living document.
It is a living document that should be reviewed on a regular basis. So in my business, my property management business, we had 30, 60, and 90-day goals. So there was this overall, these are the services that we provide, but then we were always focused on, okay, where are we going and what are we trying to achieve here? With the ultimate goal being, we want to make more money, right? And so
I thought it would be to make customers happy, but okay.
Well, if customers are happy, you're going to make more money.
Okay, there you go.
Unless you want to just flame out, where you might make a bunch of money and go away. If you can't keep your customers happy, you won't have a successful business. But this idea of periodically looking at the bigger when you have a small business, you can get caught in the rushing river of, okay, I got to get the doors open, I got to provide the service, and I got to get the doors closed. And that can just become your daily life. But without some focus on where it's going and whether or not you are taking it there, you won't be as successful. I can't say you won't be successful, because you might, but it's going to take you a lot longer and it's going to be a lot more stressful.
So as we near the end of our show,
I can't believe it's almost over.
yeah, well, I think we're going to end up with unfinished business.
We'll have to come back periodically.
I would say so. I definitely want to do an episode of
Where we just talk about me?
No, this is again. This is my show. No, you know what I'd like to do for an episode is construct a business plan. Right, go through and what are key things to look at, or what does Jack at WEDCO want to see in that business plan that will get him excited to.
That sounds like fun.
Yes, so that will happen.
All right.
But I wanted to ask you what you love about your job.
I love meeting with clients. I love seeing people excited about doing something, doing their own thing. And I love when I meet with a client and we can make their life easier or more profitable. Again, when you have a small business, it's your life. And when we can meet and achieve a goal, it's the best thing ever.
I agree 100%. I love when I meet with a potential client and the enthusiasm they have for this idea or for this passion that they want to put into play, right? And that's sort of infects you, and you say, okay, well, now I have a passion to help this person put it in play. And as you say, when it all works out, it's awesome.
And to take that a step further, when you have a few of those businesses who you've worked with and you live in your community and you can walk by those businesses and see that things are hopping in there, you think, oh, I am contributing. So it's you're happy for them, but you feel like you did something worthwhile too, which is always really nice.
Don't want to go negative, but just if you could change anything about your job, what would it be?
What would it be? I should have really thought this through, because I have not been in my job for very long. I started at the end of June, and this basically we're closing in on a year. I've learned so much. I've met so many people. I mean, like any job, the least fun thing is probably the administrative part. So,
isn't it always?
So
you can say it sucks.
I mean, so on the days when I'm not meeting with clients, but I'm behind the desk doing work that doesn't involve small business and clients, that's the day when I could say I'm less happy generally.
Yeah,
but
yeah, go ahead.
But all things considered, I've got no complaints.
Yeah,
so.
Good to hear. I agree 100%. You get caught up in the administrative part of a job, and you got to know when to say, all right, you know what, I need a break. I'm going to go out and see a client, see how they're doing. And it just re-energizes you. I'm curious to hear what you feel or what you think about the overall strength of the small business economy here in the Eastern Lakes region, based on what you've seen and what you're doing.
So I think that overall, what was interesting about COVID was that when the state of New Hampshire reopened, we reopened sooner than Maine and Vermont, and people who had been cooped up in their homes came to New Hampshire who otherwise probably wouldn't, because it was the only option available. They came and visited here, and they realized that New Hampshire's awesome. So and ever since then, as anyone who lives here can attest, we've had a lot of tourism, even more than there was before COVID. So I'd say that any businesses that whose success is related to tourism have just flourished and grown, and that's not going away. In fact, it's only growing. And so I am very, very bullish on business in Eastern Lakes region. I just think the sky's the limit for us.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, but we are having a net positive migration to the state, which is helpful.
Definitely.
And you know, I've said before, and we all agree, small business is the cultural backbone of where we live. And so the stronger we can make that economy, the better off we all are.
Definitely.
Kyla, what a job, huh?
I hate to end this. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
But we're not ending it. We're going to have another episode coming soon.
It's not goodbye. It's just see you soon.
And but I thought that was great. And thank you all for tuning in. And as a reminder, I'm the Executive Director of Wentworth Economic Development Corporation. My name is Jack Terrill, and this is WEDCOnomics. Thank you.